Hola, ¿qué tal estáis? ¿Todos bien? Acabamos de entrar, bueno, estamos en directo otra vez. Bueno, para los que no sabéis todavía lo que estamos haciendo aquí, hacemos toda la semana, hacemos un vídeo, ¿vale? Y cuando aquí nos enseñamos un poco de lo que pasa, lo que está pasando en la actualidad, o entonces cosas distintas, ¿vale? Vocabulario o lo que sea. Y la semana pasada hicimos uno de Business English y bueno, la verdad es que la gente le ha gustado mucho, entonces hoy pensamos que podemos hacer otros vídeos. Y lo de hoy, lo que vamos a hacer es básicamente hablar de cómo tú puedes escribir una cover letter y cómo también escribir tu currículum, ¿vale? Entonces aquí lo vamos a hacer esto, vamos a hablar un poco de cómo hacer esto, del vocabulario, de las palabras que puedes poner o no, cómo hacerlo, y espero que os gustáis. Bueno, os he encantado una vez más, me llamo Tiago, para que los que ya sabéis, los que tienen el vídeo ahora toda la semana, el sábado, bueno, me recuerdo que hay algo y te recuerdas que tenemos el vídeo con nosotros. Entonces, encantado, estamos aquí otra vez con la tutora Charlene, ella que nos ha dado muchas explicaciones la semana pasada, entonces lo vamos a hacer otra vez, ¿vale? Entonces, recordándolo, si queréis hacer preguntas, sobre todo sobre el tema de trabajo, cómo poner, qué hacer, un poco de todo relacionado con el mundo del trabajo. Y también para recordar que estamos con dos promociones, ¿vale? Una, lo que hacemos con nuestras lives es la Live Hispanic, está aquí abajo en la descripción, hay un código para los nuevos estudiantes, para los que queréis empezar y descubrir descubrir lo que es Cambly, tomar una primera clase, podéis coger esta promo, este código promocional y ahí poner y ganar una primera clase totalmente gratuita. Y para los que queréis, estamos con una promoción de la Semana de las Madres, que como mañana es Día de las Madres en muchos países latinos y la semana pasada ha sido aquí en España, hicimos la Semana de las Madres. Entonces tenemos un descuento muy bueno también para todos los nuevos estudiantes o los que queráis cambiar de plan y coger este descuento. Podéis buscar ahí, vamos a poner ahí también en los comentarios y bueno, entonces en los que estáis en Instagram o Facebook, podéis coger también. Hay todos los códigos promocionales están por ahí, ¿vale? Entonces es un descuento muy interesante. Y bueno, entonces vamos volviendo, será una live totalmente en inglés, ¿vale? Vamos ahora al inglés y pronto. So, Charlene, now we're back. We are going in English.
Hello.
So if you want to say anything to the people who are watching, maybe some of them I see that they are remembering us from last week. But some may be new. So.
Okay. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see you all again. Hopefully, some of my students will be watching as well. I sent out a lot of messages to my business English students. So, hello to everyone. And I'm ready when you are, Tiago. It's nice to see you again as well.
That's good. That was very good. And just to remember everyone, if you guys wanted to have a class with Charlene, we put it in the description, her link. So you can actually click on the link and then you go directly to the Cambly profile. So you can schedule a class with her, okay? And so let's start. I think last week we talked about how to find our job, so how to look from what we want to do, why we want to do that. And today I think we are going to be more practical, right? So we're going to talk about how important it is a cover letter, how to write a cover letter, and the most important thing, I think, well, I don't know, but maybe the curriculum. So what to put, what to not put. And I think it will be very interesting. People sometimes have a lot of questions about it. Even I do. I have some, so it will be very interesting. And I like to start with you and say what is a cover letter for anyone who actually don't know exactly what it is. So what is a cover letter?
A cover letter should be sent with every job application that you apply for. And basically, the sole purpose of the cover letter is to encourage the reader to look further at your CV. Because often I've worked in recruitment, and often you will advertise a job and you will receive anywhere between 80 and 200 applications for one job.
Whoa.
So some sectors are more popular than others. But basically, what your cover letter should do is encourage whoever is recruiting to read your CV and to make them want to know more about you.
Interesting. So it's more like an introduction, right? It's a small introduction they should do.
Yes, yeah, and they do tend to be quite formal, but you basically want to be summarising your skills and or the skills that you have on your CV, and kind of just encouraging them to read your CV, because I guarantee you that working as a recruitment agent, I would probably only read maybe 50 to 60% of the applications that came through. And to be honest, when you're working with numbers that big, like you would potentially for a corporate company, I'd say that's a pretty kind of high average, really. So it's like your first opportunity, a 5-minute read, you get to present yourself and make yourself sound, suitable for the job, basically.
Interesting, yeah, because as you said, sometimes between 80 to 200 to each position. So, I mean, sometimes you cannot, you don't have that time during your day to read all those applications. So people have to make sure to make the life of the recruitment agent easier, right? That's a way to think.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So, and it's, the same applies to your CV or your resume. Regardless of the amount of experience that you have, your CV should be should highlight your skills with some detail, but not too much detail. That's what the interview is for. Your CV should reflect your employment history and your education level. So, and again, a lot of people make the mistake when they're writing their CV of telling their life story in it, and people just, in a realistic way, people just don't have time to sit and read a 4-page CV. It's very rare. There's a few jobs that I have placed which were very detailed engineers, very high level roles where the CVs were 3 or 4 pages long. But that's quite rare, really.
Normally it's 1 page, it's perfectly enough, right?
Yeah, 2 sides of A4 should be more than enough, really.
Okay. And about talking about the cover letter, how long should it be? So 1 page, half of a page,
In actual text, typed out text in A4, it's about half a page, but it should really comprise of 3 main paragraphs. You've got the formal greeting and and then your goodbye, kind regards, whatever, and then you have your introduction paragraph, which is you introduce yourself, you state the job you're applying for and where you found the advertisement, so whether you came across it on their recruitment, their website, or through advertising or through an agency. The reason you do that is because you are actually doing them a favour in your first paragraph. You're actually telling them what marketing works for their company. So if they get a lot of responses saying, oh God, all of our applications came through this one recruitment agent or from this one social media site, for example, they will then target their advertising there. So you're kind of doing them a favour in your first paragraph. The next paragraph, the second paragraph, I call that your blow your trumpet paragraph, where you basically have a maximum really of 4 or 5 sentences to give a brief rundown of your skills, why you've applied for the job, and why you're passionate about working for their company. That is the most important kind of section of the cover letter, really, and is very personal. And then you have your closing paragraph, you know, stating I'm available for interview at your convenience, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Okay, so so basically put in 3 paragraphs so you can make your little introduction. Then the second one, talking a little bit about yourself and why you love that, why you want that job, why you're applying for that job. And the last one, just a closing paragraph saying thanking everybody, and that's it, right? And
I would say well, the cover letter is not a place to be modest about your skills either. You know, you need to be, you know, blowing your own trumpet, saying, without being arrogant, but, you know, or, you know, arrogance is not really the right word, but, you know, you need to really showcase your skills.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's that comes to a question that he just sent here. He's one who was with us last week. So Mejora Continua, who was with us last week. So he's actually, since you were talking about that and how to not be ashamed of putting what you wanted, he asked a very interesting question, and he put it: what is the best way to express your English level when you're writing your cover letter or in your resume? So intermediate, advanced, you should put that in your cover letter or in the CV.
I would actually put that in the CV, but I would probably mention it in where you're discussing your skills. If the English language is something that you enjoy and you're passionate about and you love learning, mention that as well, because all that states to your prospective employer is that even if your English isn't, you know, 100% perfect, it's something that you love doing, it's something that you want to learn more about, you know, and, you know, for them, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's a good thing. But I wouldn't put the actual level in the cover letter. I would put that in the CV.
Yeah, okay. So it's better to put in a CV. And he put it here for the example. He should put intermediate or advanced, or how is the best way to put it? Oh, my English level, it's intermediate. It should be like that.
Yeah, if it depends, because there's quite a big difference between, well, there isn't a huge difference, but there's a very big difference between basic and intermediate, and then the same with advanced. So if you are above intermediate, I would put upper intermediate. So if your English is really good, you're working on your vocabulary, you read regularly, you practice every day on Cambly, even though you may test as, you know, between intermediate and advanced. So it's kind of, you know, I would talk to your tutor, maybe go through a few free online tests of the level of your English, even do those with your tutor on Cambly, you know, to establish your actual level. Because one thing I have noticed, and this is across the board with all my students I speak to, they all think that their English is a lot worse than it actually is. So whilst you may, you know, as an individual think, oh, my English is bad, I made 2 mistakes when I was talking to someone yesterday, you know, you pretty much guarantee your English level is higher than you think it is. And that's mainly due to lack of confidence, not using the languages every day. But once you get in that job where you get the opportunity to speak English every day, it's a fantastic opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. And do you think it's a good thing? I mean, when you put, for example, my English level it's intermediate, and then you put that, and you actually can speak a very good English, and you can express yourself pretty good, and then you can have a perfectly normal conversation with anyone. So when you go to the interview, you actually have an advanced level. Do you think they could see that as a good thing or a bad thing when you put it intermediate and you actually are an advanced, or in the other way around when you put it advanced and you actually an intermediate?
If you are intermediate and you come across the interview as advanced, that actually does show something quite negative. It shows a lack of confidence in your language, which you don't want to come across. Okay, so for me, if I was doing it, I would be testing myself online and going through. There's a lot of good websites. I think British Council does a test for your level of English. Your tutor may be able to recommend a good test for you. And on the CV, I would put the level that you test at. But then what you can say is, I tested at intermediate, but that was 3 weeks ago when I applied. I've really been focusing on my vocabulary, my business English. And so, it's something that I'm continually improving on. And the same goes if you put advanced and then you come across as intermediate in the interview, what you're actually showing is overconfidence. Yeah, so and then the interviewer, and I know that I've interviewed people where I've read their CV and thought, it makes you think when you come across something like that, when you're interviewing someone, it makes you think, what else have they exaggerated on their CV? So basically your CV should always have as close to factual information. So if you tested at intermediate but you come across as higher level, then you can still say, I've been working on it really hard. Actually, I focused on it all through the madness that's going on at the moment, and worked a lot harder on it. So I may have improved since my last test.
Okay, that's interesting. I never thought about it, but it's very interesting. Yeah. And let's do something, because it's other. There's some people here asking a lot of things that how to actually to structure the cover letter. So can you write for us here in our chat so the people can see? So the cover letter 1 introduction, and the 2 it's
sure.
Formal greeting and introduction and closing paragraph. I think I don't remember right now.
Yeah, sure. So,
and while you're writing this, I'm just having a message for everyone. So, para todos los que estáis en Instagram ahora mismo, vamos a hacer una cosa. Vas al enlace en nuestra bio de Instagram y hace clic en el de YouTube. Vamos a hacer ahora solamente en YouTube. ¿Vale? Pues los que estáis en Instagram, venga a YouTube. Come on, guys from Instagram, come to YouTube, and we are going to continue here, okay? See you very soon. And so there's a lot of interesting things, because as I said, Gabriel Ortega, he asked here, so Charlene says that we need to introduce us in a cover letter. So what she considers should be the key points in a cover letter. So I think that's what we're going to write here now. So Gabrielle, please pay attention here while she's writing. And because I think it's one of the very important things, as she said, we need to make sure to put out the life of the one that is actually reading all the CVs, makes their lives easier. because we are looking for a job and they are actually analyzing a lot. Sometimes, as she said, 200 curriculum. So it's, imagine to read one that just for one job application. So we need to make sure to make their lives easier. So it's a very good point. And he asked again here. He asked a very interesting question as well. So Gabriel, he's asked, and in the CV, it's correct to add my title of bachelor's degree or only make a 1 page of CV with my last job's experience? So that's, I think we're going to go to the CV very soon. So Gabriel, we are going to we're going to make sure that we're going to finish the cover letter here, and we're going to the CV very, very soon.
Sorry about this. I'm just getting the last bit over.
Don't worry. It's good because people actually can see that. So if you guys wanted to take a screenshot or just write that down, it's a very good and important thing to.
Oh.
And
there we go.
Akira, she's asking a very good question. How do I say CV in English? So you can say curriculum, right? And resume. I think it's the...
Curriculum, resume, most people refer to it as a CV in England, but the full meaning, which is one of my favourite words, as we know from last week, curriculum vitae.
Curriculum.
No, it just feels really really powerful. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so where am I? The CV. Okay. So let me
let me show. So Gabriel, you saw here that she put it the key points that we need to make sure to put it on our cover letter. So make sure to write that down or take a screenshot and make a picture. So this is a very important thing. If all you guys watching, it's a very good thing. And now that we're going to switch a little bit, now that we already know how to structure a cover letter, we're going to actually go to the CV, right? And one of the first things, since we already know how to say the CV, right? It can curriculum vitae or curriculum or just CV. It's basically like that. And Juan, he's asking, is correct to say in an email, I send you my CV?
I put, I'm a little bit more formal in mine, and I would put something along the lines of, please see my curriculum. Sorry, please see my CV attached. If you require any further information from me, please feel free to contact me at your convenience. So the language that I use in a cover letter and in the CV needs to be quite formal, because if part of your job will be contacting clients or customers by email, you need to show your CV basically, and your cover letter shows that you can cope with that level of formality. For internal communications and external emails and contact.
Okay, so make sure to and we should put since we're talking about sending the CV through email. So do you think it's a good to put two documents, like the cover letter and the CV, and send as two different attachments, or put the text or the cover letter on the email and send the CV as attached?
I tend to use the email as the cover letter, and then just attach the CV to it. If you want to play it safe, you can do both. But I would use the cover letter is the same thing. It would just be a cover email. So I would just put it in the email. But whatever you do, don't put your CV in the body of the email. It should be a separate attachment.
Okay.
It looks more professional.
Okay, so never ever put your CV in your email. Just send it as attachment.
Yes.
That's a very good thing. Don't ever do that. And now let's go through into what is actually a CV, right? So the basic structure of your CV. So what do you think we need to put like right on the top part of the CV? So what the agents or the curriculum, the people who are actually reading our CVs, what is the first thing that they saw on the CV?
The first thing that should be in a good CV is your name, address, and your contact details immediately at the top. That part, the header, doesn't need to be full of too much information. But what I would say is that if you are artistic and creative, so you're going for something creative like a graphic designer or a web designer, and that is something that you do, and you have designed your own logo or anything like that, put it in the header. You can use colour, but the most important thing actually is the font that you choose. It needs to be easily readable, so no swirly, you can get some really fancy, like pretty fonts, and the thing is, if I can't read it very quickly, at some point I would probably give up halfway through the CV if it's a difficult font to read. So that's kind of really important. So I've got, hang on, put that on there.
That's interesting as well, because sometimes people tend to put a lot of, I will make these very colorful and make this font very beautiful and well designed and blah, blah, blah. Actually, you're putting a lot of distractions, right, to what it's actually mean. What's the basic thing that you want? You want the agent to actually read your CV and make sure that you fit for that position. So sometimes you just make a lot of distractions and just make the people who are, okay, I'm lost, I'm not going to read that anymore. Interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, it's good to kind of have like a bit of knowledge about companies and how they recruit. So basically, they will put a job up and lots of people will apply. There will be a closing date, and then you will have a team of 1 or 2 people who aren't even who don't work within that department but have discussed the job with the manager, okay, and the skills. They've been given a list of skills to look for, okay, and so those 1 or 2 people will sit and go through however many CVs and cover letters that they have received, okay, and then they will provide a short list of, say, 10 CVs that they think would be good enough for interview, and then they'll maybe put aside some ones that they're not quite sure about. And then those will be handed to the manager that is hiring, that is doing the interview. And sometimes you don't actually get to meet the hiring manager until the second interview. It does depend on the size of the company. So basically what you've got to do is make your CV as clear and concise with regards to your skills as possible.
Interesting, very interesting. And that's something that, since you said you need to make sure to understand how actually the companies work and these recruitment work. And there is one thing that I like to link here, because Juan, he asked an interesting thing, that which we should be used, the CV or the cover letter. So that's one of the things that we said. We should, you can actually, I would say something, and maybe you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have 2 ways to look and search for a job and apply to jobs. You can just build your CV like a normal one, and then you can actually go to LinkedIn and send to millions of people, millions of job applications that are there available. Or you can actually make a cover letter specifically for each of the ones that you're looking for. I mean, if you're looking for a marketing position, so we're going to make a thing here. We're looking for a marketing position on Cambly. So sometimes you should make sure that you understand what the company means, what the company wants, the company culture. Write your cover letter based on that, and then send the cover letter and the CV. So you have these two ways of doing it. You can send a lot of CVs out there and just make sure, like guerrilla, so just making sure.
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah, or you can be more specific, right? You can be more specific and targeted. So you will be sending a lot less, but sometimes it will be much more targeted. You having the attention of the ones who are actually reading. So I think it's two ways. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's those two ways that we can actually do that, right?
Yeah. So the first way is like a direct communication. You're applying to a job that they have asked for. The second is what's called prospective employment. And what I used to do was send out prospective employment letters to a list of companies that I really wanted to work for. Really was like, I like this company, I like their ethics, but they haven't got a job for me that I can see on their website at the moment, okay? Mm-hmm. So then you would still individually tweak that letter for each company for your top 10 or top 5 companies that you want to work for. If you are maybe fresh out of university, you've got no work experience or anything like that, the prospective way of doing it is really good for you. Just identify a list of companies within your area, within your location, because one of the most difficult things when you get outside, when you finish university is finding your first job. So that's when you send it out you do a really good cover letter, you get your CV right, and then you send it to everybody. And, I think the ratio of contact back is anywhere between 2 and 5%. Mm-hmm. So if you send it out to 100 people, you might get a few, anywhere between 2 to 5 responses back. Mm-hmm. But I have sent prospective CVs out, but they're not been contacted for a month. Mm-hmm. Until someone has thought, oh yeah, she wrote a good cover letter, or I liked her skill set on her CVs, and they've contacted me a month later. Mm-hmm. So it's difficult to tell, but it's definitely a good way to look for work.
Yeah. So one, it's depending on what you actually want. So if you wanted to be more specific, just make sure to understand the company and send out cover letter with your CV. If not, just send out a lot of those emails and with curriculums, and maybe you will find something as well. And there's something that Lucy, and she asked something very, very interesting that I never thought about, but maybe you do. She put it, if I have a disability, do you recommend to add it on my cover letter if this disability doesn't impede you to performance of the work? Is that one? So if people have some kind of disabilities, so what should they do?
It's a very difficult one, because knowing the kind of the real world, it's a difficult one. If it was me, the rule of thumb that I tend to go with on my CV is that you always put the truth. Okay. Now, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie about this. There are people out there that would maybe view that as, oh no, I wouldn't. We don't. Mm-hmm. That even though it's in some countries, like it is in England, it's actually illegal to discriminate against someone because of their disability. Mm-hmm. The reason, regardless of what country you are or where you come from, that I would put that on there is because it's about the truth and telling the truth. And I'm not saying that you're a liar if you don't put it on. I'm just saying that that's how I work. And the worst thing is if you don't put it on there and you show up at an interview with a disability, whether it impacts on your work or not, it's still something that you haven't included. So it might surprise the interviewer. And again, being an interviewer, even though I know why people don't do it, my first thought would be, what else haven't they put on their CV?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it came to that same thing about the English that we're talking, right? So don't lie to the because you get that feeling. So if he lied about that or she lied about this, so what else could be? Something could be undercovered in some way. So and sometimes it comes to a very we come to that thing that we talked about last week. So that's the company culture. So look about and do a lot of research about the company culture that you're in, because if you make sure, I mean, if you have this ability, just don't say nothing about you. You're a perfectly human being as anyone else, and you're capable of doing a lot of things as we do as well. So it's basically depending of the company culture that you wanted to put yourself in. So do a lot of research, make sure to write a very good cover letter, and because if you find a very good company that don't actually give a F about that, I mean, it's
and that's what you want. You want that. That was part of my job role, and when I was recruiting, I actively sought out. I'm not going to hire someone just because they had a disability, but for me, I think the workplace should reflect society, and society is full of all different shapes and all different sizes and different skills and different abilities, and I think the workplace needs that personally to progress.
Definitely. And needs a lot, and there's a very, I'll put a personal thought here. You need a lot more women in the corporate world as well, because I mean,
yes, definitely.
We definitely need it.
I was working in the corporate field maybe 15 years ago, and it's improved. It's improved a lot.
Yeah.
More, more please.
More please. Oh, I would say something that our team in Cambly now, I am dealing basically with probably our team now. It's 70% women. Thankfully.
Nice.
So that's a very, very good thing.
Why do you think I work for Cambly? They're amazing.
Yeah. Well, maybe more. Actually, I am talking in a daily basis, probably 95% just with women. So it's something that makes me very, very proud of to be here. So it's a very good thing. So I mean, let's continue with that. And let's see. I saw that it's a very Lucy. I saw that you put a thank you here. So Lucy, don't forget, if you have a disability, just make sure to look. So do a lot of research and make sure to don't lie to people, because I think it's a thing. If you lie to them and you actually you get the job, you will not be happy at all. So
they will legally they will contract your they will, a lot of companies would cancel your contract if something like that came out afterwards as well, which is a really, really important point. It needs to be brought up at the very least on your CV, and if not at the interview, if you decide not to put it on your CV.
Perfectly. So let's see here. I saw there's a lot of comments, so thank you guys for the comments and the questions. I'm trying to read all of those here, and we actually have one of our Flora. So everybody say hi to Flora, because she's she's asking. She's helping me a lot here. So and let's see. There's a very interesting thing here. And Mejora Continua, he's asking again. So Mejora Continua, you are very good. You're always making a very good question. So thank you for that. And he put it: Are there phrasal verbs to consider as an informal way to express? So probably he's asking about should be more formal into the CV using phrasal verbs or not.
Yeah, I've actually picked some of them out of my own CV, which kind of brings us quite nicely onto the next section of the CV, which is what I would call the profile statement. Okay, so, and I've got an example to read out. And this you can actually, the good thing about the profile statement is you can actually use it as your blow your own trumpet kind of part of your cover letter. You tweak it slightly, but you can use parts of it, okay? So I'm just going to read out my profile statement, if that's okay, that's on my own CV. It's got loads of vocabulary in it. So, okay, I am an adaptable person with excellent communication skills at all levels and the ability to work well as a self-motivated individual and as part of a team. I possess strong time management, organisational skills, and I'm able to work to deadlines in pressurised environments. I have a logical, hands-on approach, versatile nature, and pay strong attention to detail. I have worked predominantly in the office, customer service environment, and I'm looking for a role that would use my extensive customer service skills and administration skills. So that is that's quite a very formal paragraph, and it's at the top of my CV. It sums up kind of my skills, what sector, not necessarily even the sector that I've worked in. It basically sums up my CV in a kind of, with a bow on it type thing. That's why I kind of call it the blow your own trumpet kind of statement. It's not about showing off, it's about identifying your skills. And your level of English as well. So I've picked out some of the vocabulary of that. I don't know if you want to go through it or... but yeah, for me, the CV always has to be formal. Imagine that when you're writing your CV, that not only your manager will read it, but his operations manager and the CEO. They are used to dealing with people at a business level and formally as well. So that's what they will expect from their employers.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you for that. And so that's, as you already put it, like your name, you're in the first thing. You put your name, your details, how the people can actually contact you. And the second one, you put a profile statement, so an overview of your skills. So as you said, blow your own trumpet. So make sure to the people who make the things a little bit interesting for the one who is reading that. And I think we come then to the education level, right? So how we put the education or now. So what do you think we should put after the profile statement?
It depends on your level of experience. So for me, who I had 20 years of experience, the most important thing was my employment history. Okay, so if you've been working in a job or you've been working for 5 or 10 years after you've left university, the most important thing is your employment history, really. Your education should come after that. Okay, if you are fresh out of university with a little bit of work experience, hopefully from voluntary work, you should put your education first. But it does depend on whereabouts you are in your career, really, and the job you're applying for as well. So I've done it kind of in the same order as I would send out my CV, but like I said, if you're fresh out of university, it should be employment history, education and then employment history.
Okay, so if you don't have that much experiences, you should put your education first. And if you already have a lot of, or more, a little bit more of experience in the field, let's say like that, you should put your employment history first. Interesting. So it's a thing that comes to one of the questions that Gabriel he asked us and at more or less at the beginning, and I make sure to highlight it here because it was interesting. And
definitely.
He thought, I mean, I don't know, Gabriel, I don't know if you are just if you're studying or not, but he asked about, it's correct to add my title of bachelor's degree or only make a one-page CV with my last job's experiences. So that's one of the things that we are talking exactly about it right now.
Yeah, you should have if you're applying from university, you should have on there your education as your third paragraph, and then any work experience that you may have. So anything that you've done, and if you're, in your first or second year, those summer holidays where you're, going home to work, you want to be trying to find work experience that is related to your course of studies, even if you do it for free. Because I can tell you right now, anyone fresh out of university, it's a huge, massive competition, basically. So anybody who has even a little bit of experience, if, a lot of trades or families will work in, everyone will be an engineer or a doctor, okay? That's when you start using your network, okay? If your dad is an engineer, you talk to your dad and be like, can you just get me an assistant's job? It doesn't matter if you are making the tea in an engineering company, okay? You get to sit in on meetings, you get to learn terminology, you get to see the process of it. And what I will say is, if you make yourself useful, typing out, letters for people, anything, making the tea, preparing the meeting room, anything like that. Most of the time they will let you sit in on the meeting and you just learn. You use it as an opportunity to learn.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that's very important, and anyone should be thinking about doing something like that. You get the sense of what is actually the corporate world is, or how the company works, and it's in the, I think you learn a lot when you put yourself, get out of your comfort zone. So when you go actually to the real world, you work and you will learn a lot. So definitely worth to do something like that.
And definitely, and it also helps you decide what first job do you want when you leave university, As an engineer, there are so many different parts to that: mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, solar power. There's so many different sectors, and you might not necessarily want to be sitting at a drawing board designing. Designing new technology. You might actually want to be out in the field, training people to use the equipment, training people how to maintain it, training people about the design, So there are so many different elements to whatever it is that you're studying. You want to try and get as much experience as you can, because it will pay off when you're applying for jobs at the end of your university course.
Yeah,
definitely.
And Miguel, he's asked about how, as you put it here in your employment history, your profile statement, employment history, education, he put it, so thanks Miguel for the question. He asked how important it is to put a professional objective in the CV. So I think it's something that you should put in a profile statement, right? Your professional objective, right?
Yeah, it's incredibly important. It shows that you want to develop and grow and learn. It shows that you've got you may not know that, but you have an idea of where you want to take your career, and that's the type of people that you are looking to employ, really, people who are thinking about, right, I actually really want to work for this company. And I have tailored my CV sometimes, changed. If I'm applying for a specific job in a company that I really want for, I will go through my CV and tailor it towards that job interview as well. So incredibly important to put your professional goals on your CV.
So you just said your professional goals. So it's a correct way to say that professional goals, or as he put it here, professional objectives. I think it's
professional objectives. Yeah, because then you can put more than one. Yeah,
so both are correct. Choose professional goals or professional objectives.
Yes, and I would put that in the profile statement, maybe as your last sentence or two.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. That's interesting. And the one that we answered the question, Gabriel, he's asking, what does she mean when she writes "blow your own trumpet"?
So the blow your own trumpet is an idiom, and I love idioms because I'm English. Everybody in England uses idioms at the drop of a hat. That's an idiom.
Oh, that's another one.
So basically, blow your own trumpet, to kind of break it down, is to identify your skills and point them out in a clear and concise way. Blow your own trumpet, it could be, it's like showing off, but it's not showing off, because you're just saying truthful facts about your skills, basically. And like I said earlier, your CV, you don't want to be overconfident in it, but modesty is not required on your CV. You need to be able to identify your skills and make sure they are clearly stated on there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, blow your own trumpet. Never forget about that.
Yeah.
And that's Mejora Continua. He's asking again, very interesting thing as well. And he put it, some job openings ask for international English exam, for example, Ielts or TOEFL, or probably those two are the biggest ones. And you have another one like aptitudes. It is good to put into the CV if you have those.
Yes, definitely, your score level. But what I would try and do before you do that is find out what their minimum requirement is. So with the majority of corporate companies, it's usually somewhere between 6 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that, I would say still put it on there if it's slightly lower, like maybe 0.5 below. But if you can, before the interview, maybe try and work at getting your Ielts score at kind of somewhere between 6 and 7. It seems to be the average. That's information that I've been, told by the students that I teach. It's usually either 6, 6.5 or 7 minimum requirement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if the company's asking for that, if they want a 7, so you already know that they are looking for someone who actually can speak a very good level of English. So
yes, definitely.
You need to make sure that you don't lie to them. So make sure to be pretty honest with them. So, and probably they will, even if you lie to them and say you have the maximum. So you at the interview, they will ask you very difficult questions that you have to be able to express yourself incredibly well. So it's probably not a good, if the company is asking for that specific thing on the job application, so make sure to don't lie to them, because they will make sure if you actually can or not express yourself or have that level of English.
Exactly. And it's also kind of I don't want to be kind of down, put a downer on it, but if your Ielts score is kind of lower than that, by all means I would say apply for the job. It may be quite a long interview process. You may not be being interviewed for several weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and you may have the opportunity to try and improve your Ielts. If you can, I would say just put it on there and hope for the best. But it may be that if your Ielts isn't at that level, then you would really struggle doing the job anyway, which is, something to consider. Sometimes these things like this come along to kind of challenge us and to push us further. If your Ielts is at, or TOEFL is at, the underneath the level that they require, then maybe that's something that you really need to focus on for 2 or 3 months. Get that IELTS up, find out what the minimum requirement is in the companies that you really want to work for, and then think about applying for jobs once you've hit the minimum standard, really.
Okay, that's good. So just make sure, don't study and make sure to research a lot of each company. So, and let's do here. We're already wow, we're already at 55 minutes. So almost 1 hour.
There's one more section left.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because it's something that it's a very interesting thing. So your CV, you put your name, address, so your contact information. Then you go to the profile statement. Then, if you have an experience a lot, go to the employment history. Or if you're just getting out of the university, put your education first. So employment history, education, and then the last part of the curriculum, it's our personal statement. So what is actually a personal statement? So can you explain for us?
Personal statement is something that is related to what you do outside of work, okay? What you're interested in and what you're passionate about, okay? And so when I used to go and I would talk to employers about what type of person they're looking for, one of my questions to them would be, how important is personality in this job? That the prospective employee, how important is that as a percentage? And I was very surprised. Sometimes it was 50-50, sometimes 60-40. Okay, the skills and everything are important. The other the other thing that is incredibly important is your personality, and that your personality will fit within the team. You can have all the skills in the world, but it may not be that you're not the right fit for that company sometimes, and that may be the reason why you're not successful, which you can't change, So, and to be honest, if your personality or the manager thinks that your personality won't fit within the team, he's probably right, and it may mean that you end up, even if you are offered the job, in your perfect job, but just kind of not fitting in with the company, which is awful. So it's it is important. I have got my personal statement here. Just to give you an example, I can read it out if you want me to.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so this is me, my personal statement. Okay, so I have a passion for opera and theatre and a growing interest in ballet. I have a wide range of both practical and design experience gained during further education and as a freelance designer of bridal, costume and evening wear. I also regularly visit art and historical museums. I'm a complete film buff with a love of historical drama and have recently returned from a 6-month trip to Thailand. Okay, so it's just personal, what you're interested in, and it doesn't have to be related to the job, but one thing I would say is don't over exaggerate it, because I guarantee you, and it has happened to someone that I've interviewed, where they said, I studied costume and stuff, and I've asked them about it and they haven't known anything about that subject. It's something that they just kind of put on their CV because they thought it would be relevant or interesting. But if you're asked about it and caught out, it's very, very obvious. So just put on there what you like and what you enjoy.
Oh, interesting. So, and in that part, you don't actually have to blow your own trumpet too loud, right?
No, you just put on there what you like and what you're interested in.
Yeah, just making sure. I think it's probably just making sure to be honest and talking about what you like, right? What you like, what you are up to. So it's something that I think it's a little bit just about us.
Yeah, even if it's something that you think is quite random, like you love a specific type of anime or animation or a particular artist or, anything like that, it just kind of shows you as more than kind of a couple of pages of skills and education. You know, we are all more than that. We are what we do in our free time as well. So, and that's important.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting. So, I mean, since we already know the structure of the curriculum, so everybody who is seeing us here, just make sure to write that down, those 5 points, so that you should make sure to put in our CV. And I want to do this one last question, because I think it's a very, very interesting thing that makes a lot of people very. I actually don't know how to deal with that, and it's a very interesting thing. So thanks, Orlando. Orlando, thanks you very much for your question. And he's asking, so he put it, Charlene, do you recommend it's convenient to put on the payment, so about we negotiate the payment, we put something related to the payment, how much do you want it to receive or something like that? Talking about money in the curriculum at all? Don't. What do you think? What are your thoughts about it?
No, I've never put my salary requirements on my CV. I would actually know, but when I was walking into the interview, I would have researched the company enough to know what the minimum salary is for the job that I'd be applying for. So you can find that information out on LinkedIn, on apps like Glassdoor, which is what I've mentioned before. You can find out the average salary for a country, for a certain type of job. There's so much information like that available online. You can use your network, find out who you know, who's working there, a friend of a friend, you know, that can give you a rough idea of what the salary is. And if it's you know, if it is beneath your requirements, then that's your decision to make. If you really love this company and the ethos of this company, and the trade-off of a lower salary is excellent training, excellent, fantastic opportunities, then that is something that you need to decide whether or not to still, you know, to continue to apply for this role. Mm-hmm. But what I would say is that if you're coming out of university, salary should be the least of your concerns, really, definitely. But what you actually want is getting your first job outside of university and getting the right job for you. Salary is important, and it becomes more important the more experience that you get. But I would, when I was interviewing people and recruiting for people, I would get their salary requirements in the interview. Mm-hmm. And can I say 9 times out of 10 people have very high salary requirements and expectations. So you might want to check that your salary expectations are actually realistic as well. Yeah. Because I'd love to be paid 40 grand a year to work part-time doing, I don't know, engineering, which is possible actually. The engineering salaries are just amazing in some countries. But you need to see if your expectations are actually realistic as well.
Definitely. So it comes to that thing. Just make sure to research a lot about all the companies that you're applying for. Don't forget about that. And I think it's a very thing. Already we have been through all of those points. And one thing that Carolina, she just put it here. So the personal statement is more informal. I think it's.
Yeah, it's more informal. It's not. It won't have. I mean, it's as informal as a CV will ever be. In the, you know, you're talking about your personal interests. I wouldn't, you know, I don't know, use idioms or slang in it or anything like that. You still need to use quite high level vocabulary in it, but you know, you can be a little bit more friendly in it, I suppose, a little bit warmer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So yeah, I mean, we have been through all of those, and there is one interesting thing that I saw here, and it's actually the point that we're going to talk about next week, because I thought I just make sure here. Let me find the comment. Christine. So Christine, she asked about what is the best way to introduce ourselves in an interview. So Christine, we are going to talk about interview next week. So we have been through how to actually search for jobs, how you can actually, it was last week, right? So last week we talked about how to search for jobs, how we can actually find those. This week we talked about cover letter, how to write your cover letter, how to put it your CV well structured. And next week we're going to talk about interview process. So the vocabulary on that, what you should do, how to present yourself. So it's a very interesting thing. We're going to be talking a lot about that next week. So make sure to keep here with us. You're going to send again an email telling you about the day and the time. But make sure to keep hearing with us. And next week we're going to talk about that interview process and how you can actually present yourself. And I think it was very, very good. I would like to thank Charlene again for your time and to be very,
thank you very much, and thanks for all the great questions. I'm always so nervous just before I start these things, and it's always a really lovely experience. So thank you to everyone, and hello to my students if any of you are watching.
Definitely are. And I want to make an announcement here, and it was, if you guys are watching, if you wanted to make sure to test the platform, or if you wanted to use Cambly, we are having a perfect discount promo this week. So tomorrow it's Mother's Day in all Latin America, and it was Mother's Day last week here in Spain. So we did a week just with a promo code for the mothers, or for everyone who actually wanted to make sure. So if you want to make sure to have a very good discount, we put it on Instagram here. So if I'm not wrong, it's Insta Semana 45 off. No me recuerdo, pero bueno, hay en Instagram sí que hay el enlace en nuestro bio, te manda directo a la promo, ¿vale? Entonces, los que queráis empezar, estamos con una promoción increíble. No os perdéis esto porque es muy buena promoción con un descuento increíble. Y para todos los que, os quiero decir muchas gracias otra vez por todo, por estar aquí, por hacer las preguntas. Ha sido genial, de verdad, ha sido genial. Muchas gracias por todo. Y la semana que viene, como os he dicho en inglés un poco antes, la semana que viene vamos a hablar un poco de la parte de las entrevistas, cómo llegar, cómo expresar y cómo hablar, el vocabulario de la entrevista, cómo hacer esto bien, ¿vale? Entonces, la semana que viene vamos a enviar emails, vamos a poner en Instagram también, todas las redes sociales, pero no os olvidáis, la semana que viene, el sábado, no os olvidáis que vamos a hablar de entrevistas y cómo hacer esto bien, ¿vale? Entonces, muchísimas gracias. So, thank you, Charlene, again for your time here with us. And
see you next week.
Yeah, thank you. We're going to see you next week, right? So, everybody, guys, see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Muchísimas gracias.